Pursuant to Section 84-1411 of the Nebraska statutes, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education of Douglas County School District 0001 and the Board of Educational Service Unit number 19 will be held on Monday, March 1st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in the board meeting room of the Teacher Administrative Center, 3215 Cumming Street. The agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection in the Office of the Secretary of the Board of Education at the Administrative Building during regular working hours. Pursuant to Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the board meeting room on the north wall. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Vice President Erdenberger. Will you please lead us in the vision and mission statement, please?
Thank you. OPS vision, every student, every day, prepared for success. The OPS mission, to prepare all students for success in college, career, and life.
Okay, we have been informed that Mrs. Snipes will be running a little bit late today, and as of right now, Mr. Snow is absent. Roll call, please.
Cassidy.
Here.
Erdenberger.
Here.
Head. Here. Hellman.
Present.
Cracky.
Here.
Smith. Here. Snipes. Snow. Thielen.
Here.
7 present.
Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Snow from tonight's board meeting?
So moved. Second.
It was moved by Mr. Head and second by Mr. Thielen. Roll call, please.
Thielen.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Erdenberger.
Aye.
Head.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
7-9.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Jeremy Maskell with our school spotlight.
Good evening, President Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, Superintendent Logan, and members of the board. Our OPS Proud Spotlight this week features 3 major awards staff members have earned as they make students feel welcome, heard, and appreciated in our schools. The Nebraska School Counselor Association awarded Giovanna Zervanio, Dr. Carrie Carr, and Jacqueline Holtz with the awards. Zervanio, a Norris Middle School counselor, received the Nebraska Counselor of the Year award. Dr. Carr, the principal at Norris, received the Nebraska School Counselor Association Administrator of the Year award. And Holtz, a Walnut Elementary counselor, was surprised with the Elementary Counselor of the Year award. In this video, you'll hear from each recipient, along with a few students who describe the incredible impact our staff members have had on their lives.
When I found out that I had won, I was speechless. I was honored to have people nominate me. I'd come from Latino countries. I think that just being able to connect with teenagers and just not forgetting what you went through just kind of helps me have that relationship with students and their families as well.
Ms. Zervanio, I don't have enough words to describe her. She is an amazing person. She is always there for students. She supports you in every possible way, mentally and physically.
I was incredibly honored to be recognized by the Nebraska School Counseling Association, but really more so by my counseling team. They're just such an outstanding group of counselors. It's really such an honor and very humbling to be recognized by them. Everything that we do is about relationships, whether it's working with kids or supporting staff and working with staff. When you build those relationships with people, it's amazing the things that you can accomplish.
She's always asking people how they feel, if they want help, but she's always there for you no matter what.
Miss Ho, what is happening? We want to congratulate you because you have been named Nebraska Counselor of the Year. We're so excited. It's so
Congratulations to our honorees.
That's wonderful news. We can always use wonderful news. All right, moving on to Board and Superintendent Communications. Dr. Logan.
Good evening. President Hellman, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the board, and those watching the live stream, and those here in person. We began our return to a 5-day-a-week in-person learning schedule for our high schoolers this week on Wednesday. Yesterday morning, our high school students returned to a 5 days a week of in-person instruction. We now have all students engaged in daily in-person learning, if that's their family's desire. Even as we've returned to learning 5 days a week in person, our COVID case numbers remain low, which is heartening. We credit the commitment of our staff, students, preventative measures, and Omaha Public Schools' layered approach to health and safety. The decline has been remarkable. Our recent I just want to say that we would have some days where we'd have as many as 30, and today we had 2, and we've had many days when we've had just 1 case for staff. Our recent academic data has shown that many of our students depend on daily exposure to in-person learning for their educational success. That said, we're pleased to welcome our students back to a more normal routine. In recent weeks, all of our district families received an update on the construction of our 2 new high schools and our student assignment plan progress. Now that boundaries and programming have been determined for all of our high schools, the district will work to finalize the new high school student assignment plan. The new plan, which is designed to offer a simple, equitable approach to transportation eligibility for our high schoolers, will go into effect with the opening of the 2 new high schools in fall of 2022. No matter where a student lives, our families have choice. They can apply to attend any district high school. The plan will determine transportation eligibility and priority high schools available to students as part of the high school selection process. On Tuesday, we concluded a series of our 4 family engagement and feedback sessions held virtually in English and Spanish. The sessions were offered during the evening, 1 on a Saturday and 1 held during the lunch hour, to provide a range of engagement options for families. Families saw a presentation about the proposed student assignment plan and shared their feedback ahead of an upcoming Board of Education workshop this Monday. I want to highlight that we began gathering feedback to create the current proposed plan nearly 2 years ago, and certainly want to recognize Dr. McFarland and Mr. Hughes for all of their work, along with many others, but they certainly have taken the point on that. One recurring theme shared with us as a part of the feedback centers on the desire for expanded access to advanced programming. As you know, we have incorporated much of that feedback into our high school programming, which will launch this upcoming fall. The plan, which will continue to focus on English, math, and social studies, allows students to explore career path options during a freshman seminar course. During freshman year, students select an academy or pathway that will not only prepare them for college, but jumpstart their post-secondary plans. We want our students and families to know we are listening to the input they've shared. We hear them. They've told us the current options in our high schools work great for some students, but do not prepare all students to leave high school and earn a living wage, whether they intend to pursue post-secondary education, enlist in the military, or take another path after graduation. Our local and national data shows that when students select their courses and learn skills that connect to a career path, they are more engaged and more likely to graduate. We look forward to launching our updated high school programming this fall and to finalizing our student assignment plan in the months to come. Later this evening, the board will receive an update on the district's short and long-term academic recovery plans. To preface the update, I'd like to remind our families that we recently emailed a survey to gather their input for our academic recovery planning work and preparation for summer school and fall of 2021-2022. We encourage our families to share their input with us by completing the survey, which is open through Tuesday, February 23rd. Feedback will be used to inform summer learning logistics and help refine our specific academic recovery focus areas. I would like to thank Mrs. Comine and her team. What they're going to share with you tonight is a high-level overview, but it is really extraordinary, the work that they have put into the plan. In addition to the survey for all families, we've engaged groups of parents, teachers, and administrators. We listened to our District Citizens Advisory Committee's feedback. We talked with our Special Education Advisory Committee. Staff work with fellow large urban districts and the Council of Great City Schools, and will soon be meeting with community partners. As part of tonight's board agenda, Curriculum and Instruction will share more details about our academic acceleration and recovery plans. This afternoon, school districts throughout Douglas County communicated with all staff that the health department will soon begin vaccinations for school and district employees. All Douglas County school districts will determine which staff are eligible for vaccination based on common standards. They include whether staff have sustained direct contact with students and the employee's age. Our district and others in Douglas County will be in touch again with staff when they are eligible for an appointment at a health department vaccination site. We are eager for staff to receive vaccinations and value the Douglas County Health Department's partnership. In conclusion, lots of kudos, starting with Caden Williams of North High and Taryn Frodema of South High for being selected to the Metro Conference Swim and Dive academic team, recognizing excellence in the pool and in the classroom. To Sean Froming of North High for being named Metro High School Activities Association Swim Coach of the Year for 2020-2021, and to the students and staff of Blackburn, recognized by Nebraskans for the Arts as a Nebraska Arts Award School. This for Blackburn support and achievement in media arts, visual arts, dance, music, and theater. I have a few additional congratulations to extend before I conclude my remarks. First, a congratulations to Dr. Lisa Sturba, who will retire this summer after more than 30 years of service to the Omaha Public Schools. She will be with us for several more months, but we wanted to make sure that we included it tonight. And congratulations to Mr. Charles Wakefield, who will be appointed to the position pending Board of Education approval. Mr. Wakefield's leadership in human resources and depth of knowledge about our district will continue the student-centered work of our operations division. I would like to say that lately we've had a lot of 4 a.m. calls and Sunday night calls and pretty much every night of the week calls, and it really has been a 24-hour endeavor for Dr. Sturba and their entire team. The work of identifying our next Chief Talent Officer, currently Chief Human Resources Officer, will begin following Board of Education approval of Mr. Wakefield's new role. Please join me in thanking Dr. Sturba for her service and congratulating Mr. Wakefield on his new role. This concludes my remarks, Dr. Hellman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Logan. And congratulations to you both again. On to board comments. I wanted to start first, if you all didn't mind. I wanted to first share with you all these beautiful placemats that we received today from our friends in the virtual school. And so I certainly want to thank Bo, CJ, Kyla, Kathleen, Mia, Casey, Ruth May, Oliver, Kaylin, Tessa, Aaron maybe, Tucker, Byron with the big B, Caleb R., Teddy, Eli, and Grayson. Thank you all so much for our placemats. We love them. Thank you. And then secondly, we are super excited about our educators, our teachers, and everyone finally getting the opportunity to get the vaccines. We know it's been a long journey, and it's definitely needed. And so we're very, very thankful and grateful that it is finally going to happen here very soon. So thank goodness. And then finally, I am looking forward to virtually participating in Belvedere's Black History Month readathon. And so I'll be reading a couple stories to some of their classrooms next week. And I am very appreciative for being asked to join them in doing so. Mr. Thielen.
Thank you, Dr. Hellman. I just want to echo your gratitude and thanks for the patience as we've worked to get vaccines to our staff. The Board of Education and the Superintendent have all been working on that, and we're glad that we're moving in the right direction. I also want to say thank you to all the constituents that have been reaching out over the last couple of weeks. And thank you for your patience as I've responded and tried to get the answers that you're looking for. The board is, it's part of the board's process right now to be, gathering information, and we're learning more about the student assignment plan and some of the details. So again, thank you for your patience, and thanks for reaching out, and please continue to engage.
Thank you, Mr. Thielen. Mr. Head?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hellman. And I wanted to echo as well your thank you for the virtual school students for the placemats. These are awfully nice. And to echo what Mr. Thielen said, thank you to everyone from the community who's reached out regarding the assignment, or not the assignment plan, sorry, the academies and pathways. I know there's still a lot of questions out there, at least from what I can tell, and so I'm excited to continue working with you and the board and the administration to get answers to you. I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but we will be discussing it on Monday at the board workshop. So stay tuned, and hopefully we can get any answers that you have to you. So thank you.
And Vice President Erdenberger.
Thank you, Dr. Hellman. I too would like to express our enthusiasm for getting the vaccines made available. I'd like to think that it's the result of a letter that the board sent to the governor earlier or last week, but I suspect it has a lot more to do with the fact that our superintendent talks to the Douglas County Health Department at least once a day, maybe 2, 3, who knows. So somewhere between those two actions, we've ended up with vaccines, which we're very excited about. Something I'm going to try and do on a going forward basis is identify a couple of the items that are on our consent agenda, just so you have an idea of what it is we're doing and why they are on the consent agenda. One of the items is the purchase of some cameras for camera surveillance, and the current camera system is over 15 years old. I think it's probably VHS or something, I don't know. And it's being upgraded to HD cameras with multi-view capabilities, enhanced performance, and improved recording storage capacity. In addition, it's going to be put in different places and more exterior building coverage for specific educational levels. The other thing I wanted to mention was our Head Start program, which is also on the consent agenda for today. As you may know, Head Start is a federally grant-funded program that provides early childhood health, nutrition, and family support services to low-income children and families. The OPS Head Start, Early Head Start program serves 560 preschool-age children in OPS classrooms, and EduCare serves 152 Early Head Start and 187 Head Start preschool students, for a total of 899 children. The Head Start Early Childhood program includes Head Start, pre-kindergarten, and early childhood special ed programs within the Omaha Public Schools early childhood programming. These programs all use the same curriculum and state-required assessment and work in alignment with the same objectives and goals for students. In addition to education services, Head Start mandates a certain level of parental engagement and provides funding and staff to support its programs. So just a little bit about what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Erdenberger. Moving on to public comment. Masks are required to be worn in order to speak during public comment. If you are not wearing a mask will be provided to you at the podium to wear while speaking. We have 5 speakers who have submitted a request to speak form. The board has adopted policy 8346, which provides public comment for a period of 1 hour. That same policy limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes. We ask that you respect that time limit. Mr. Ray will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining and when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you are in need of an interpreter, please let Mr. Ray know and one will be provided for you. If the subject of your public comment is related to a particular student or staff member, we ask that you not mention the student or staff member by name and instead provide that information to Mr. Ray. He will assist us into looking into those types of specifics for you. If you do not get an opportunity to speak and would like to submit any written commentary, please provide it to Mr. Ray. He will make sure each member of the board gets a copy. As a reminder, we ask that you please spell your name and state your address before you begin your public comment. It is now 6:50, and our first speaker is Gretchen Hooper. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello to all of you. My name is Gretchen Hooper, Gretchen, Hooper, Hooper, and I live at 113 North 54th Street. And I'm here tonight to talk about concerns regarding the Academies and Pathways program and related mandated block scheduling. At the January 21st board meeting, the Academies and Pathways presentation stated that focus groups were held at each high school discussing items with the principal, counselors, and students. It also referred to a survey completed by 2,000 participants in July 2020 that went to parents, teachers, community partners, and students. I have requested details of when this was sent out and its result, as I personally do not recall receiving any such survey. I have heard feedback from many other parents regarding the lack of communication and input, and I have yet to find someone who has said they've received this survey. What involvement has higher education had in this process, such as Creighton and UNO area colleges? Creighton has historically provided the Haddock STEM corridor program for kids at Omaha North, South, and Central. This is an amazing summer opportunity for kids in our district to work with professors at Creighton on research projects and present results to the public. This provides them a real-world experience as to what they can achieve. Were these institutions asked for input on this program? The forced change to block scheduling for all schools would limit opportunities for those kids at 9-period schools. It reduces the amount of electives a student can take while increasing class time from 44 minutes to 90 minutes. I understand where certain courses such as science require 90 minutes for labs. These 9-period schools accommodate these by scheduling 2 44-minute periods, while also at the same time students remain able to attend a math course every day, which is a core subject that needs daily attention for many students. I have been told that the block scheduling is related in timing, but not substance, to the academies and pathway programming. Why is block scheduling being forced on a school community that clearly does not want or fully embrace it? Another comment that is made in response to mandated block scheduling is that there are serious issues of credit loss for the significant number of students that switch high schools. My understanding is that this was true when some schools had the 4x4 block and not the current AB block. As long as the class is offered at the school the student is transferring to, the credit will also transfer. Therefore, it doesn't seem transparent that there would be any such credit loss issues related to different scheduling. I would ask for statistics and details to explain this further. Regarding academies and pathways, I would like to be clear that I am all on board to look at changes for the future. However, I feel this should be a collaborative effort with the entire community it affects. The freshman seminar, where students can explore different avenues and careers, is something that certainly would benefit students. However, assigning schools with definite pathways that a freshman is required to choose from seems to define them early on in high school. Here are several questions I have heard from the community on this. Does every student have to choose a pathway? I hear that the current freshmen have to choose a pathway right now as they sign up for the 21-22 school year, even though they have never had any information or insight into all of them. Are students limited to change their pathway only once, and at what point in their high school career can they do this? Is every student required to do a capstone project? What happens if a student doesn't complete this, and what do they earn if they do? When asked about AP courses, the district says they will not change, and in fact more will be added. I hope this remains true. In contrast, I have heard where science courses are no longer available at Burke next year, and other consumer courses will be eliminated the year after that at various schools. Why are only certain schools allowed the Cambridge pathway? Where is the classic liberal arts school that provides kids the opportunities to check out everything that interests them? And how are the results of the academies and pathways programs going to be measured, and who is responsible for that for the foreseeable future? I will end on a personal note. My son graduated in 2019,
1 minute.
and though he was a rare one to map out his entire future at the age of 14, he was also able to add to that path many times by taking electives that were outside the box for him. My daughter was able to take math and language courses as an 8th grader at the local high school. It kept her motivated with her love of learning. Although as a sophomore she still doesn't know what she wants to be, she has so many opportunities to explore everything. Please continue to give OPS students everywhere the options they need for the future.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hooper. Next, we have Kimberly Shaneyfelt. Please excuse me if I've mispronounced your last name.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Shaneyfelt. It's spelled Kimberly Shaneyfelt. My address is 305 South 52nd Street. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your time and your consideration of our concerns. I have 4 kids that have attended OPS since kindergarten. 2 are alumni and 2 are in 10th grade. I am a very proud OPS parent. I have been an OPS parent since 2005. Before that, I student taught at Benson and I subbed at North and Benson. My husband has been a volunteer coach at OPS since 1992 in basketball and soccer at North, Burke, Central, South, and Northwest. My concerns lie in the changes proposed with block scheduling and the transportation issues and the pathways and academies. First off, I am concerned with the sweeping changes that are being proposed, which will leave a lasting effect for many, many years. Who will actually see this plan through? If you make broad changes to all the schools, you have no ability to go back if it does not work. It would leave the OPS structure fragile if it did not work. What outcomes are we projected to see? How much will this cost? Marion Fay sent each of the board a thoughtful letter on January 21st, 2021. She asked the board to carefully consider consultants who purport to predict the future. Why aren't all schools rushing out and asking 14-year-olds to choose a career pathway? She asked some very important questions. I encourage you to reread her letter. Ask yourself the tough questions. I also encourage you to respond to her letter. The timeline has been rushed. The board started working on this with a committee of 4 in early 2020. The meetings were on Zoom and one was cut short for technical issues. 2 members opposed the plan, and in the fall, the last 3 meetings were canceled. Then in 2021, you had new board members and a push to rush this through without a vote. Your job as a board is not to rubber stamp. This is a policy issue. This is a budget issue. You as a board represent your constituents, not anyone else. The proposed transportation plan is unfair to students who will be forced to provide their own transportation if they want to go to a school outside their zone. You do not provide equity to students if you do not provide transportation to the school of their choice. Not all of the schools will offer the same curriculum. How many transfers will students be allowed if they choose a district pathway or if they choose a different pathway or academy? How many times can they change their pathway? My 4 teens change their minds daily. I'm not sure how you plan to deal with transfers and multiple changes that teens will undoubtedly want to make. The teachers need a break from stress. I don't think I need to elaborate on this. Consider our OPS teachers when you think about this fall and adding more stress. The only constant in life is change. Be careful what changes you make. OPS is not a broken school system. Be careful who you model our school system after. Consider carefully how and why we would fund this particular program. Life is full of change. Change can be very good. We have to choose carefully. Thank you for your time. Don't forget to read Marion Fay's email. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaneyfelt. Next, we have Cindy Frazier Abdesalam. Did I say it correctly? Great, thank you.
It's a tough one. Good evening. My name is Cindy Frazier Abdesalam, C-I-N-D-Y, Frazier, F-R-A-Z-I-E-R, Abdesalam, A-B-D-E-S-S-A-L-A-M. And I live at 105 North 54th Street in Omaha. And my concern is more of a parent of 5 children. I've had 2 that have graduated from Central High School, and each one of them have had the opportunity to, one has participated in IB, and the other one has participated in AP. classes. And the reason why and I also have one at Omaha North right now. The reason why we as a family have chosen to be in OPS and to send our kids to OPS is because of the experience that each one of them have had the opportunity to have. We love Central and the experience that each one of those children have had because they've had such opportunity in their education system, as well as my daughter who's now at Omaha North High School. I want my next two children that are coming up to have those same opportunities wherever they go, and that's, again, particularly why we have chosen to be a part of the OPS school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chris Hellman. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Chris Hellman, C-H-R-I-S, Hellman, P-E-L-L-M-A-N. I live at 7333 North 122nd Avenue Circle. I'm a lifelong resident of Omaha. I attended OPS K through 12, as did my husband and two children. I graduated from Omaha Central, and both of my kids are CH grads as well. I've been active in the Central High School Alumni Association for more than 15 years. Please let me set the lens of where I come from, because I know you think this is some Central Eagle who is all anti-change. Don't touch the Central traditions. This could not be further from the truth. I've worked for the same company for 25 plus years. It's $1 million company in Omaha, and my role is process optimization. What does that mean? I am an agent of change. I am tasked with helping departments, teams, and locations analyze and implement their changes. The first step is to identify the problem and determine what is needed to make improvements. We then examine the change and we determine what is going to bring the most significant value. I contacted each of you with my concerns, and some of you provided me with thoughtful responses. Regarding the academies and pathways, no one has shared a description of all the academies and pathways which I specifically requested. If this does not exist, how can we expect teachers to begin teaching this in about 6 months? The perfect recipe for failure is to push out a half-baked product. While I've yet to see the value in this program and forcing kids into a single lane that they can only change one time, I'm attempting to learn about it. I believe they should have as many choices to find their strengths and explore. How does an academy pathway model that pigeonholes that student and allows them to only make one change benefit the student? My larger concern is the idea to move all high schools to a block schedule. Why? Why does it need to be one size fits all? One of you shared that teachers teach bell to bell in a block. So while I was short on time between that response and tonight, I reached out to some of my North High families. All separately told me that is not true. Rarely did the teacher teach the full 90 minutes. My child's experience with the block was about half of the time was instruction and the rest was followed by, you can do your homework, sometimes they could visit, or oftentimes the class became disruptive from being forced to be into that situation for an extended period of time. Does the block mirror secondary school? In the secondary school environment, students have much more autonomy. They can leave the room, they can come back. And let's just face it, the attention spans of a high school student is not very long. The attention span of a secondary learner is a more mature learner. It's evident that attention spans are decreasing due to the constant flow of information. High school students have never had a great attention span to begin with.
1 minute.
Yet OPS wants to ask students to learn in ways that exceed their attention spans. Students need to have the ability to be in the classroom every day and learn in small nuggets versus big chunks. Does Tom Brady practice his craft every day to go to the Super Bowl, or every other day? Did Dr. Kizmekic Corbett, lead scientist of the COVID vaccine, develop her vaccine every day or every other day?
30 seconds.
Finally, I would ask that OPS consider when they are implementing these changes. Families are checked out. Families are tired. They've been dealing with the pandemic for the last 11 months. To me, it appears that these changes are being quietly stitched in while everyone else is exhausted and of all the other challenges of the last 11 months. In the words of Nebraskan William Jennings Bryan, destiny is no matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for, it is a thing to be achieved.
That's
Please
time.
help our students build their destiny and provide them with the choices they deserve.
Thank you, Mrs. Pullman. And next we have Alex Gates. Evening, Mr. Gates.
Good evening. My name is Alex Gates, G-A-T-E-S. I live at 2612 North 97th Avenue. I live in Subdistrict 3, and I've got 4 children in OPS. I've got a 1st grader at Edison Elementary, a 3rd grader at Wilson Focus School, a 7th grader at Lewis and Clark, and a freshman at Central High School. I'm here tonight to express concern about the rushed timeline and the lack of parent and community input regarding the Pathways and Academies updates and the one-size-fits-all approach to high school scheduling. I'm not here because I'm afraid of change. I'm not here because I'm afraid of bold, innovative approaches to providing families in Omaha access to a world-class education. I'm here because parents in the community weren't provided an opportunity to legitimately be involved in these decisions. I'm here because parents also deserve to be among your transformational partners. I'm also here to support our teachers who we have asked so much of already. They haven't had a chance to breathe, and they need a chance to breathe. Support them. Now, some have said there's always going to be an excuse to wait another year. And I'm not suggesting we stop thinking about this and just put it on the shelf and bring it up a year as it is now. Rather, I'm saying let's get to work by collaborating with the community, providing legitimate opportunities to gather feedback and build this program into something that we can all be proud of. But this takes time. I participated in the high school family engagement and feedback session, as it was titled, on February 8th. And a flowchart presented at the meeting outlined 19 steps of stakeholder input and collaboration from November 2019 to the fall of 2021. Mrs. Colmine presented the same flowchart during the January 21st board meeting. It was the one with the 19 blue boxes. Among those 19 items on the flowchart, the words parent and community were only mentioned twice. 2 of the 19 items included parents. The first mention was related to a survey in July of 2020. The other mention was about a branding team, which seems to be a small committee formed to create a PR campaign for the new program. Now look, I'm an involved parent, and I've spent a lot of time in this room as a PTA dad over many years, and I read my emails, I follow the district on social media. I don't recall a survey to parents in July of 2020 related to the academy implementation. I recall participating in the return to school learning survey of that summer in the middle of the pandemic when we weren't even really sure when our kids were going back. In any case, how do you expect to gather meaningful input from a survey in the summer while we are months into a global pandemic? It doesn't make sense. Now, did any of you watch the family engagement presentation on February 8th, and do you know how they work? It was a scripted presentation. Nobody in the audience knew how many people were there or who was participating. We weren't allowed to read all the questions that were asked, and moderators had the ability to pick and choose what would be answered and addressed. How can you really call that family engagement and feedback? Now, I've seen the district fall into a trap of doing things that look good on paper, but fall short in practice. Naming those presentations family engagement and feedback is a perfect example. It's theater. Now, unless we thoughtfully approach this massive change to our high schools collaboratively, it too will feel like something that exists to look good on paper, but falls short in practice. We deserve better, and rushing this through in a pandemic is irresponsible, reckless, and unfair. Now, I'm sure you've heard from parents who are concerned about the one-size-fits-all approach to block scheduling, and I share their concerns. I'm worried that by taking these choices away from families in OPS, we will give weight to the school choice movement in our state. Public schools can offer choices as long as they make an effort to offer choices. Mandating block scheduling reduces choice, and forcing teachers and administrators to make the switch now after everything they've been up against over the last year should worry everyone. It should also be noted that academies and pathway programs exist all over the country, with varying schedules existing within them. Even in Nashville, where your consultant is from, students and families have the choice about which schedule style works best for them. I know there's a lot who worry about losing electives, food programs, family and consumer sciences, honor science courses, and from what I understand, there's massive changes in store, but really nobody knows what's going on. There haven't been opportunities to participate and ask questions. Success isn't determined by whether or not a program is implemented. It's measured by how well the program performs. The success of our city depends on how well this program performs. We need more time to work through the details. We need a chance to catch our breath. Then let's get to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Moving on to the consent agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that is before us.
So moved.
It was moved by Mr. Head,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Smith. Any abstentions?
Yes, Dr. Holman, I have one. I need to abstain from item I-11. Claim C, please. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Cassidy will be abstaining from Claim C, item I. Roll call, Mr. Ray?
Cassidy.
Aye.
Erdberger.
I raised my hand earlier before you started the roll call. I wanted to say something. Is that okay? Now, or you want me after roll call?
No, we're in the middle of a vote right now.
Okay.
Erdenberger.
Aye.
Head.
Aye.
Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Snipes.
Aye.
Thielen.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion passes. Moving on to action items. First, we have J1A legislative update. Mr. Head.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Holman. And real quick, I just wanted to start off again by thanking everyone on the legislative committee. So Dr. Logan, Dr. Holman, Ms. Erdenberger, Ms. Cassidy, and as well, I wanted to thank Megan and Blair as well for all of their hard work with the legislative committee. So to jump into the report, we don't have a whole lot of new items. We would recommend that the board adopt a new position on a couple of new bills that we took a look at. The first one is LB 454. We would recommend the board support our decision to oppose it. It's the School Property Tax Stabilization Act. We've opposed similar bills in the past. It would grant a new funding mechanism through the state TIOSA formula to go to mainly rural school districts, and it would jeopardize our state aid from the TIOSA formula. We would also ask that the board oppose LB 622, which is a 3% cap on assessed value of property. It's very similar to another bill that we opposed this year. We would ask that we oppose LB 623, which is the Remote Instruction Act. That one would essentially force the district to operate more or less a remote and an in-person school district at the same time in conjunction with each other, with students and teachers being able to jump back and forth from whichever one they wanted to be a part of. It would be, in our opinion, just a mess for the district. Please oppose LB 644. It's the property tax joint budget hearing. It requires us to have a budget hearing with other county entities who also collect property taxes. LB 673, we would like to oppose as a student.
Mr. Head, sorry.
Yeah.
Do we have this written attached anywhere?
So.
I mean, you're doing an amazing job, but
Yeah. So it is all part of the attachment on J1A, the 21821 bill summary. So these are all bills that are specifically within that, and they're all annotated with the committee recommendation.
I apologize. Okay,
So.
it's fine. I just want to make sure you finish, and then I'm.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Self. All right. So LB 673 is the Student Discipline Act. We opposed that bill last year as well. And the final one, LR 13CA, is a constitutional amendment to cap the tax funding for schools at 33%. So outside of the new bills, we had a few that we testified on this week as well. I provided opposition testimony to LB 132 as the School Financing Review Commission. Mr. David Kramer provided testimony on LB 198 as the Student Discipline Act. I provided testimony on LB 454, the Property Tax Stabilization Aid. We provided a letter opposing LB 622, the 3% cap on assessed property values. I testified on LB 623, the Remote Instruction Act, and then we submitted a letter opposed to LR 13CA. Outside of that, last thing that I have is the 5 bills in the OSERS project, LB 144, 145, 146, 147, and 582 are all up for a hearing next Tuesday at 4 p.m. And I believe Dr. Logan will be there testifying on our behalf for those bills. So.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Head. We appreciate all the work you've been doing as part of the Legislative Committee Chair. All right, next we have...
Dr. Hellman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to formally approve the...
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Cassidy. We have a motion made by Mr. Thielen and a second by Mrs. Cassidy. Is there any discussion? Mr. Snow?
What is the motion that we're voting on?
For the approval of the legislative update.
What are those bills?
Will you name those bills off again, please, Mr. Head?
I mean, because...
Yeah, sorry, what was
you
that?
moved to approve the motion, but I didn't hear the...
Yeah, sorry, what was that, Mr. Snow? I didn't hear the question.
The bills that we are approving today.
Yeah, so
this thing is just really
the new positions that the committee's asking the board to approve are opposition to LB 454, opposition to LB 622, opposition to 623, opposition to 644, opposition to 673, and opposition to LR 13CA. And those are the only new positions.
Any other discussion? Mr. Snow?
I would just like to make a suggestion the next time for, probably not just for me, but for people that are at home or in the meeting watching. When we give these updates for legislative, I would like the bills that we're voting on to be pulled separate. It would be easier for people to, at least for me to follow, because you're scrolling through those pages and making, because this chart or this document has bills we haven't even taken positions on that we probably will never take a position on. Just my suggestion for the next update, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
One moment. Erdenberger?
Aye.
Head?
Aye.
Holman?
Aye.
Cracky?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Snipes?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
Thielen?
Aye.
Cassidy?
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. All right, next we have item J1B, approval of resolution authorizing issuance of sale of bonds, excuse me. And we have Mr. Scott Roberts here for the presentation.
Good evening. President Hellman, Vice President Erdenberger, Superintendent Logan, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening regarding the district's plans to issue $140 million of Series 2021 general obligation bonds. With me this evening are two of our valued partners, Mr. Bruce Leffler with Piper Sandler, sitting back here in the red mask. He's our financial advisor. And Mr. Tyler Mullen with Baird Holm, our bond counsel. I will start with a brief introduction and overview. Mr. Leffler will then cover market conditions, timing, and specifics regarding this issue. Mr. Mullen will conclude with some specifics regarding the board resolution in front of you this evening. In May 2018, voters approved a $409.9 million bond issue, passing with a 67% favorability vote. This Phase 2 bond was a follow-up to the $421 million Phase 1 bond issue that was approved by the voters in November of 2014. Both bond issues arose from a 2014 facility plan developed by the district and approved by the board that identified approximately $800 million of needed projects. Two tranches have been drawn down so far under the 2018 bond issue. We drew $80 million in December of 2018 and $125 million last January. In October, the Budget and Audit Committee was presented with our plans to go public with the third tranche this spring. Tonight, we are seeking approval from the board for the sale of up to $140 million of general obligation bonds. Based on current cash flow estimates, we anticipate the fourth and final tranche with the remaining $64.9 million to happen next summer. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bruce Leffler with Piper Sandler to review the specifics of this particular issue.
Yeah.
The clicker's there, just hit the down arrow.
Okay, gotcha. Appreciate it. Again, members of the board, Dr. Logan, Bruce Leffler with Piper Sandler in Omaha. Again, for our previously standing board members, we've been through this process a few times in establishing both the original 2015 vote and 2018 vote. So we're just kind of updating some of the information that we've talked about before. Scott asked me to talk about current market conditions, so I've dusted off the crystal ball to see how far into the future I can see. But the reality is the current market that we're seeing here in 2021, current market conditions in the tax-exempt environment is still showing very favorable rates. Interest rates that we're seeing on similar bond issues in the marketplace are, I don't know if we're still at historical lows, but we're certainly in a historical low area for interest rates. The demand for these types of bonds are outpacing their availability in the existing marketplace. We continue to see from the first of the year that market supply continues to grow in this environment, though, and in a supply and demand curve, the more supply you get, less demand you see, you'll see interest rates rise. But I think we're still in a favorable position where there still is a lot of market demand out there for these type of bonds. Part of the market presence that we're seeing is what we've seen through 2020 into 2021, the presence of taxable bonds, and it brings a whole another group of people into the market environment. But again, tax-exempt rates are still very favorable, and we think we'll show you here that in just a second. Anticipation that we're looking for is that these bonds will be marketed on March 10th or 11th. Again, we publish that these bonds are available. We have a whole process that we go through. We go into the bidding or competitive marketplace environment. So on a day at 10:45 on March 10th, we pick a time, and everybody that has any interest in purchasing bonds submits their bids to try to buy them. The school district bonds in the past have attracted quite a bit of attention from the marketplace, from the national marketplace, for the purchase of their bonds, and I think we've seen very good results from that. We're sizing the bond issue to the extent that it'll provide $140 million worth of project expenses to the board. What we've seen in the past, again, we can see some bonds that get priced into a premium marketplace in that we may sell $130 million for the bonds that will produce with a premium $140 million for the proceeds. But our key is to generate that $140 million for the proceeds for the district and their projects. The final maturity of the bonds will match up with the previous issued bonds have been issued for December 15th of 2043. The estimated interest rate we're seeing in this environment as of today, with that same crystal ball, is going to be interest rates we expect to be in that 2% or a little bit less marketplace, where in the last issue we did about the middle of the year in 2020 for the new issuance of $125 million for the district, the interest rates on those bonds are about 2.65. So we can see that interest environment is still fairly low. We go back to estimates we made when the bond issue was promoted to the public. We were looking at interest rates at that particular point in time estimated to be between 3.5% and 4%. So what this ultimately means is we're anticipating that the overall debt service for the return on these bonds is going to be less than what we were projecting back in that original elections, which ultimately should mean a lower tax levy than we were anticipating at the time as well. The current bond rating for both issues, considered in the high-grade market, a AA, S&P AA, and the Moody's AA2, both with stable outlooks. Timing-wise, again, the work that we're currently doing, again, we're here today requesting the board's approval for the authorization for the bonds not to exceed $140 million. We're looking at rating agency conference calls that we've set up that Scott and I will be on for the most part sometime next week. We've already got those scheduled with Moody's and S&P, which are the two rating agencies we deal with. We anticipate the rating confirmation will be coming in the following week. So we will be publishing notice of the offering. Like I said, this goes out to the entire bond buying public. It's electronically available to everybody so they know all the details of the bond sale. Anticipate that the bond sale will be March 10th or the 11th. That same day, we will get confirmation of the final terms, which means we'll get sign-off by the district for the final bid and the lowest bid that we receive on that day. Anticipated settlement of those bond proceeds will be, first week, 10 days into April, where that's when the funds will actually be available and deposited with the district construction account. I guess I'd stop there, and I'll turn this over to Tyler for the legal aspect of it, unless there's any specific questions for anybody, or we can answer those later. Tyler.
Good evening, Tyler Mullen with Baird Home Law Firm, bond counsel for the district. So like Scott mentioned, the voters authorized $409,900,000 in principal amount of bonds to pay for various capital projects within the school district. To date, the district has issued $205 million under that voter authorization with the two tranches that we've had. Tonight, we have a bond resolution for the third tranche. This bond resolution authorizes the principal amount of bonds of not to exceed $140 million with a true interest cost of not to exceed 3.5%. The board president and the superintendent are both authorized to accept the winning bid of the competitive sale on behalf of the school district. Like Bruce mentioned, the bonds will be sold in a competitive sale process. U.S. Bank acts as paying agent on all the school district's bonds, and they will continue to act as paying agent on this issue. In addition to authorizing the issuance of the bonds, this bond resolution also approves the forms of the preliminary official statement, the notice of sale, and the custodian and paying agent agreement that will be used in connection with the sale of the bonds. So with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Colleagues, any questions? Mr. Snow?
Thank you, President Dr. Hellman. I remember at our last last series of tranche that we did, the board was told that we would have you come back, Mr. Leffler, and present potential local sales of bonds. And I don't recall for the third tranche that we were going to put local sales to allow an opportunity for people in Omaha and our region to be able to buy those bonds. Because typically when you put these out, it just gets bought by Chase. They buy up every single
JP
bond.
Morgan or some of the big
it's the
firms. Yeah,
same.
you're absolutely right
They buy
about
them
that.
all. So I thought we were going to have an opportunity to have local sales. I know OPPD did something like that with their bonds in the past, and I've seen some other districts across the country. I know that's a little bit slower, but it allows, it's people's homes and taxes that are held accountable to that, and it allow them to be able to reap some of those benefits from those bonds. Even if nobody did, they still had an opportunity.
I would say, I'll have to go this way. My recollection of that conversation had to deal with a little bit more with, we had that refunding bond issue that we were working on last year as well. We refunded some outstanding bonds in the district. We had some conversations, I know, around the possibility of doing that because it may have fit into that scenario a little bit better than the larger issuance of the bonds. I can only say that, and Scott, I'll leave this to Scott, I can only say at the time the decision was made to handle those bonds the same way we've handled this with the public sale.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Snow, this fall we'll have an opportunity on a 2015 bond refi. If the markets hold tight, that's approximately $165 million, so it's a sizable issue. And we would certainly work with the board on that to ensure that there's an opportunity for the local participants to buy some of those. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. You bet. And I knew that we were going to say, everyone's going to say something similar to that. When we did the first sale, I tried to push and at least have that conversation brought to the table. And I know people are new in different positions and we get tied up into things. And it's a lot easier to just do one big sale. You don't have to worry about it. And until we actually get something, I don't know if supporting it, then we come back for the fourth tranche and something else happens just because the market's not as favorable as it is today to do something like that. So I'm just speaking what's on my mind and how I feel. And please don't take anything personal.
Not at all, not at all.
So I thank you for your time.
Mrs. Erdenberger?
Yeah, to follow up on what Mr. Snow was saying, you're the experts at this, but I guess my instinct would have been, so I don't know one way or the other, but my instinct would have been that we actually get a lower interest rate if we're selling into a larger market as opposed to selling smaller pieces into a local market. And am I right thinking that? And if that's the case, then lower interest rates are always better as far as I'm concerned.
There's a dynamic to be considered. We've had this conversation, a number of times with the board and/or administration, to the extent that by going the route of the competitive bid, that on March 10th, whatever date it is, at 2:45 or 10:45, we have a bid, and we take the lowest interest rate that comes in on the bid at that market. There is very little argument that can be made that you didn't do what was prudent for the district and take the lowest interest rate that's available to you at that particular point in time. However, we've also had the discussion that there can be some value in making bonds available locally as well, as Mr. Snow has mentioned, but it just has, again, based on the structure and we serve to the direction of the board, we haven't had that opportunity. There's certainly chances to make that way. You can peel some of the bonds out and there's lots of things you can do. But you also, at that point in time, I would say, I hate to say politically, but again, you run the risk of saying, okay, you've done something that maybe cost a little bit more than it might have cost otherwise. And it doesn't mean that it has. It just means that you're subject to that criticism. That's kind of the development that we've talked about in the past. Okay.
No, thank you. Yeah, whatever it takes to sell it. If we have somebody in Omaha that wants to take it at a lower rate than Chase, I assume we'll find that person.
Well, the argument that we'll already make, and maybe it's not a fair argument, is anybody or any institution or any bank in Omaha can certainly bid on these bonds at the same time everybody else does. But they have to take the whole 140 million that we're talking about, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of bonds.
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded? I'm sorry. Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mr. Thielen. Roll call, please. Any discussion? I'm sorry.
I will be voting just to let it, sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, Dr. Holman. I just raised my hand.
I can't hear you.
I raised my hand, sorry.
To do what?
You said any other discussion after the motion.
Do you have discussion? Okay.
Sorry. I will be voting no on this. I was the board president, and it didn't happen under my watch, and I was promised, or I thought that we would continue. So until we have an opportunity for me to see potential local sales for the community, that's the reason why I'm voting for it. I support the bond and everything about that. I'm just, so I hope for the fall I can get that information, and then we can find out, does Chase have a lowest interest rate or somebody else? But we'll never know until we get it, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Any other discussion? Roll call, Mr. Ray.
Head.
Aye.
Hellman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Snipes.
Aye.
Snow.
No.
Thielen.
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
Erdenberger.
Aye.
8 aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to J1C, approval of recommended organizational chart changes for 2021-2022. And Dr. Logan will be leading us in this discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Hellman. The organizational chart shows two changes. The first change is the creation of a parent ombudsman. Currently, we have a coordinator of our parent engagement office, and what we are doing is to create a parent ombudsman position where this individual will be the arbiter of the, and actually we're not creating a position, we're transitioning the position, so that this person would be the arbiter of items that come to the school district that have gone through every kind of resolution process, following the chain, working obviously if it's a local issue with teachers, with counselors, with school-based administrators, so on and so forth. And when a resolution cannot be reached, this individual would be the person that works and determines the outcome. This person will continue to report to Lisa Utterback, the Chief of Student Services, but would also meet at least monthly with the superintendent to make sure that these kinds of issues are brought to the attention of the superintendent. Typically, in a school district about our size, we could expect maybe 4 or so of these kinds of cases a year. Typically, we can work most things out, but we do have an opportunity for parents who cannot seek resolution about something related to their child to have an opportunity to make sure that they've exhausted all opportunities to have it rectified and brought to the attention of the superintendent. So that is the first change. The second change is the creation of transitioning of the position of the ESU director. We currently have that position to include school improvement, accountability, and innovation. This individual would be, the mission of that office would be to provide coordinated performance management, technical assistance, promote strategic innovation and data analysis services that align resources to outcomes and support the implementation of the strategic plan and local school improvement plans. Again, this is a transition of a position. It does not create a new office. It just puts several offices together to include academic recovery from the pandemic. There would be 2 project managers to support the summer school and other opportunities for academic recovery for our students. This individual would also have research, Title I, and non-public support. One of the duties of the of the Educational Service Unit is to provide non-public support. Currently, we kind of have that ad hoc among several folks. Title I is given to non-public schools who have students who qualify under the Title I designation. Grants, professional learning supports, which is probably the biggest and probably one of the most important features, enterprise strategy and innovation, and the Office of School Supports. Again, those are not new offices, but all of these individuals, all of these offices will report to the Chief of School Improvement, Accountability, and Innovation, and this individual also have the responsibility for the Educational Service Unit as the Executive Director.
Any other information? Okay, thank you.
That's it.
I have 2 questions for you, Dr. Logan. For this position, the Chief of School Improvement and Accountability and Innovation, is this going to be a position that will be filled, or is a position that will have to be applied for?
This position will be posted. We will post this position, I believe, through Ed Week. Do I have that correct? Ed Week, as you may know, is it's the national organization that recruits educational administrators and others for organizations, and has a daily publication regarding educational issues of the day.
Great, thank you. And do you have a timeline of when this position will be posted?
I believe we have completed the position description, and Mr. Wakefield can answer that.
Thank you.
If the board approves the position tonight, it will post tomorrow morning, and we should get it in Ed Week and Council of Great City Schools by Tuesday of next week.
Fantastic, thank you. Ms. Cracky.
Talking about the person for the new position, we have always had someone doing the job that you're doing, who is currently doing that is, you're posting it now, because I know we've always had someone that we went to and did it. That was in the student personnel or some kind of other people. Who did it then, and
Mr. Wakefield.
Can they not do that any longer?
Ms. Cracky, the director of ESU 19 has moved around quite a bit over the past 5 years. It used to be in curriculum and instruction services. Most recently, it's been in the IMS services. And instead of having it be an additional job or an ad hoc job added on to somebody, we want to give it the recognition it deserves and give it the scope that it deserves.
Well, I thought the person that was doing that upstairs in that, who is in charge of that right now?
Connie Wickham is currently in charge of that. She is our director of, I lost what she's director of. She helped desk and technology implementation, and she will continue to do that work as well.
I heard the parent component in there of the discussion of the mediation, and was that part of that job?
No, the parent ombudsman position is a different position. Okay. Where that person reports currently to the Chief of Student Services. We are changing, the person already exists, we are changing the title and the scope of their work to include mediation of parent concerns that cannot be resolved by any other method.
I still don't know who is currently doing it. That was my question.
Crystal Boyd currently does that role for us and will continue to be our ombudsman role. So that job was reclassified, or is being reclassified as a part of this to widen that scope.
Any other questions, Ms. Crackey? No? Okay. Any other questions from anyone else? Mr. Snow?
Thank you, President Dr. Hellman. If I'm correct, this is to you, Dr. Logan. If I'm correct, there's no fiscal note change with any of these positions.
The fiscal note change is that we needed to add a position for the one-to-one technology and help desk associated with that, which is the position that Mrs. Wickham has decided that she wants to have.
Is there, so we're approving the org chart and that fiscal piece, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I shouldn't say decided to have, that was not well said.
No, I get it.
Mrs. Wickham, who is a super highly valued employee and amazing, has assumed responsibility for a lot of the one-to-one technology, helping parents, and to shepherd the district along with Mr. Dunn through our one-to-one adoption.
Makes sense. And do you know the number? Just so when I vote yay, I know the number.
Mr. Wakefield.
So,
I'm assuming you're asking salary for the chief position?
Yeah, because when I read this, it just says org chart, which we approve every year. We can move that stuff around all the time, but what is that number that we're voting on?
So the chief position base salary is right around 190,000.
190?
Yeah. The director and position that Dr. Logan's talking that we added for Ms. Wickham is around 95 to 100,000 a year. And I do want to caveat that's from my memory, so I may be plus or minus 2,000 or 3,000 either side of that.
So roughly about 300,000 that we're approving with this change. No? Ms. Wickham's currently already. Currently, so only 190. Yeah, correct. All right, I'll say 200 just to, even though other things go with it. Thank you.
Ms. Cassidy?
I just have a quick question, and you might need to stay close. It's very quick, though. You mentioned the 2 project managers. Where do those folks fall under? I know they report to the new Chief of School Improvement Accountability. Do they fall under
Yes,
that? Or?
yeah, we would use our ESSERS funds because we have to, it's a large sum of money that this individual would shepherd, and the project managers would be used to support all of the projects and programs as a part of COVID academic recovery.
Okay. And that's 2 positions, correct?
That is 2 positions.
And will those also be recruited for, or are those?
Yeah, I believe we posted for those already in anticipation to support Mrs. Comine and her team with summer.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Snow?
I just thought of another question. Thank you, Vice President Dr. Hellman. I don't know why I was very excited to rush out. Dr. Logan, was research was under Chief of Staff originally, so that's a new move, right?
That is a move, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did we mention that? I probably wasn't paying.
I believe I mentioned
Probably
all the ones, I was reading from my sheet, so
Okay, understood.
I can read it again. It's academic
No.
recovery. No, let me get it because I want to make sure you have everything. Academic recovery, COVID academic recovery, research, Title I and non-public support, grants, professional learning supports, enterprise strategy innovation, and the Office of School Supports. I do want to note that, which includes the 3 principal supervisors. At one time, we had 6 principal supervisors, but we have reduced principal supervisors from 6 to 3.
I understand. And thank you for that. All right, I'm good.
Any other questions? Ms. Crackey?
Maybe it's a silly question. You reduced the principal supervisors. Does that mean we cut supervisors out in visiting schools or supervising? So we've cut them out, or they retired, or what is happening?
No, we reduced the number of positions, and we were able to do it by attrition.
Okay. Are we going to be needing them?
We feel that 3 is sufficient for a district this size.
Okay.
For example, the Wallace Foundation, and we have used a lot of the Wallace Foundation work, recommends 6 to 8, which means we would have 15 principal supervisors, which is a lot of people supervising. And so we did have 6. We went to 5, then 4, and then we settled on 3, considering the size of our district. And to consider there are other supports that we have. We have teaching and learning consultants who go into schools who support with curriculum and that work under Mrs. Comine. And we had a lot of people, many people with the supervisor title. It was very difficult to understand who was doing what, because many people shared that title. And the teaching and learning consultants, and they are amazing, go in and support our schools with curriculum and with professional development, and support our school leaders, and our 3 principal supervisors supervise our principals and provide support to our 90-plus schools.
And we've been at 3 for the past year, correct? 2 years?
Yeah, we have for 2.
Thank you. Vice President Erdenberger.
I'm just trying to follow what we're doing here. So if I'm asking a question that you guys already asked, I apologize. So we are, in addition to shifting people around and reorganizing who covers what in a way that appears to make a lot of sense, there is 1 new position that's being added.
One new position.
1 new position.
I'm sorry, 1 new position in terms of the large supervisory role and our direct report to the superintendent.
Right.
And then we are adding 2 project managers to support the implementation of summer school and to support the implementation of our COVID recovery and helping us make sure that we are really excellent stewards of the monies that we are about to receive, and monies that we will probably likely receive with the next stimulus package as well.
Got it. Okay. So all of the expense of all of those people will be covered by our COVID money. So I'm calling it COVID money, but is that right?
The Chief of School Improvement and the ESU Director will come out of our general funds. The project management will come out of our ESSERS funds. Those will be grant-funded positions.
Okay, and I think that Mr. Wakefield identified the 1 new position, because Ms. Wickham is already on our payroll. The 1 new position that's coming out of our general fund is approximately $90,000. $190, okay. And just assure me that it's already in the budget.
It is already in the budget. Mr. Roberts can tell you that it's.
You can just say this.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Rest that new knee.
Mrs. Cassidy.
Okay, just a very quick question. I know we're almost done with this topic. Just got me thinking though, are these project managers positions somewhat temporary because they are supporting COVID academic recovery? I mean, are they kind of set for, I know that we've projected out that our academic recovery could take anywhere from like 2 to 4 years. Are they
3 to 5?
Are they somewhat temporary then? I know we're not calling them that, but
they are grant funded.
Okay.
And so they, if at the end of that term we decided that we would need to find money in our budget to keep these positions.
Okay.
One of the things that we learned with the stimulus in 2009 is if somebody is not directly responsible for this, it's a lot of money that comes in very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And it needs to be accounted for very well. I was a school principal at that time. I can tell you that it was really difficult as a school-based leader to understand that because in Prince George's County, where I was principal in my home, they there was not that kind of oversight.
Mr. Head?
And so the positions that are going to be grant funded then, are those grants that we already have, or is that anticipated?
I'm using the ESSERS. I use ESSERS funded. I'm using that term instead of, I probably should have used ESSERS. That's what I'm considering as the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Head, we should expect, we certainly expect an ESSERS 3, by the way, so, with the next stimulus.
Yep. Yeah, I know we expect it. I just want to make sure it's money that we already have and have accounted for, and we're not funding positions hoping that we get the money.
Any other questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation changes to the attached organizational chart for 2021, 2022.
So
Move
moved.
approval.
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Crackey and seconded by
Second.
Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Mr. Snow?
Thank you, President Dr. Hellman. I probably should have said this before Mr. Smith made his motion, to mention the dollar amount or try to around that area there so people would know in the actual vote that we were, because if you're just looking at it, just like we voted on a org chart, but there's actually a dollar amount attached to that. So, I mean, I'm okay with it. I just, coming back to have that dollar amount put in there would be helpful.
Mr. Snow, when the budget is adopted in end of August, September, it will be reflected there for the next school year.
Thank you, Dr. Logan.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Crackey,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snipes, Snow,
Aye.
Thielen,
Aye.
Cassidy,
Aye.
Erdenberger,
Aye.
Head,
Aye.
Hellman,
Aye.
9-9.
Motion passes. Okay, moving on to J1D, approval of allocation of the remaining funds in the 2014 bond program. And we have Dr. Sturba with us this evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I was told to ask you if you were sleepy.
If I was sleepy? Sleep is so overrated. Okay, I had to check with them to make sure I did it okay. Good evening, President Dr. Hellman, Vice President Erdenberger, Dr. Logan, esteemed Board of Education. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Lisa Sturba. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Omaha Public Schools, and I am here to seek approval from you for the use of the 2014 bond balance. So, oops, I guess I'm a little bit too far on that one. As our bond project coordinator, Jacobs works with the Omaha Public Schools with contractors, subcontractors to get the best possible pricing on product, on build out and finishing of our schools involved in the bond. In some cases, these items cost less than the budget, which results in savings. These savings are either put back into the schools or the projects to meet the needs of the school while maintaining the scope of work projected for the school improvement assessments. As we go through that, what's left is a fund balance. This has led to a $1.7 million fund balance that needs to be spent by June 30th of 2021. District Operational Services and Jacobs have the following recommendations for the uncommitted funds of the 2014 bond. The first recommendation is the building automation systems. Dr. Logan has had firsthand experience with this cold weather. The automation system is for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and what we're looking at is approximately $1.3 million. The building automation system is essential in operating the mechanical system, such using a computer-controlled automation. This allows us to reduce costs in energy by controlling the temperature and humidity while also monitoring the air quality, such as carbon dioxide. This will allow OPS to be smart fiscal stewards. What this does, the district is expected to get a return on investment in about 3 years with this spend. With the cold weather, as we've come in, our automation specialist has been able to look at his computer, and during this cold stretch, he was able to see 7,000 bells going off. So in the system, he can see every heat closet, every damper, every ventilation system, and he can see if a damper is open. He can see it, which has saved us a ton of time and energy as we get our steam fitters, our plumbers, our electricians, and our roofers out to help mitigate any problems that come with that.
Dr. Sturba, I would like to say that the other night when we were trying to decide whether we were going to open school on Wednesday, Mr. Zimmerman was able to be on that call and talk about zones, and it was really remarkable, the information that he was able to provide for us. So, and we were able to make a decision to open schools on Wednesday after a lot of deliberation. So it really, to me, it paid for itself on Tuesday night, but it was amazing.
For me, it pays to have his cell phone number when I get calls from principal who say, my kindergarten room is 54 degrees. And I say, what's your room number? And they give me the room number, and I'm texting Tony, and I'm saying, Tony, room 22B in this school is 54 degrees. He says, yep, damper's stuck. We got a steam fitter already on the way. Okay, well, that works. That's an easy fix, not an easy fix. I shouldn't say that. Our steam fitters, I have to say our steam fitters, our plumbers, our automation, our electricians have been working tirelessly through this cold weather. But they're able to get out there quickly when they see these bells and whistles go off. So that's our first ask at $1.3 million. It does come to a benefit to about 52 schools. Hydration stations, I was out at Bancroft today, so I have to give a shout out to the Bancroft 6th graders because they asked for hydration stations. The second recommendation is those hydration stations at $250,000. These are a hand-free hydration station. The need for hydration stations was developed prior to COVID when we look at ADA regulations and also Nebraska regulations that require water. Since COVID, we've also understood the benefit of having a touch-free water system. So we are looking at hydration stations for 35 to 40 schools. And we put that as an estimate because we haven't put it out to bid yet. We'd like to use a lot of our small emerging businesses in the area to do that work. And we're going to try to get as many as we can with that $250,000. The third recommendation is a Knox box. And a Knox box is an emergency box that sits outside of a building. The ask is about $150,000 for these Knox boxes. The Knox box holds keys. Sometimes they put maps or electric outlets, map of an electric outlets, as well as the numbering system for the school. Those are in those Knox boxes for emergency situations. This would come to a benefit to about 60 of our schools. Those are the recommendations that we have based on the $1.7 million, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Snow.
Thank you.
I guess I can't do that. Sorry, Dr. Holman. Mr. Snow.
Thank you, President Dr. Holman. I believe the total savings on this was 1.7 million and 100. I think on the bottom here it says $1,096.
And that extra 100,000, whatever we
1,096.
Whatever we can put into those hydration stations and the Knox boxes, we really will use everything that's there. Trust me.
So fire life safety, I'm assuming this all fits under the original thing of the first bond.
Correct.
Right? Kind of lost my train of thought here. With all the stuff that's just listed here, I'm assuming, if I'm correct, some of these schools, if I'm looking at them, were in that bond. the first phase bond, there was no controls or anything done at all at any of those facilities?
There were
Even
controls
those in the
done.
second phase that are on here?
There were controls done on some of them on parts of the buildings, if that makes any sense. So if it was, we've just finished an RFP with a new automation system, so with Optimize, and not everything was done at that time. So parts of the school got fire, they got sprinkler system, they got new doors, but we didn't touch the automation. So we're trying to hit those, go back to those schools where we didn't get that in.
And they're just grouped here, so they're not listed out. So it could be a school and a group that is not getting that. Okay. And then my second question, so the Knox boxes. So right now, if a fire department shows up at OPS, I thought they had keys or had a way into the school. Is that, don't they already have that access?
We've tried to do badges with them, and I need to check with Donnie Morrison to see what the status is right now. The Knox box is a new requirement. I believe it's a city ordinance.
And that's at every entrance or just one entrance?
Just at the main entrance.
At the main entrance. Okay. Kind of wish everything was broken out on here.
So the first one where the schools are listed, those are the ones where we would add the automation system. Is that what you're looking at?
Yes, that's what I'm looking at, but I remember a list we had before that had, the district used to have a line, an item where these were the items we approved for the bond, but these were the next series, and I mean, that was eons ago, but we had different color stages. And obviously this is newer stuff on it.
So the priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a obstructionist on it, but
I can speak with Jacobs tomorrow and get that sent.
Because I don't think the EduCare centers were even in the first phase of the bond.
You know, I would have to check. I don't know
think
that
a
off the
single
top of my head.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Cassidy?
Thank you, President Hellman. Dr. Sturba, thank you so much for the presentation. I think anytime there is a surplus, you just want to see that the funds are going to well-needed projects. And I think that you've presented that this evening, so thank you, and thank your team. First, the first group you said was 52 schools. I'm not going to count them, I'm going to assume. I think this seems really important. It mentions automated air quality control. Is that system, is that something that's going to help with COVID? I mean, do we have several schools now that we get a lot of emails from parents and constituents that are worried about the air quality of the schools? So is that first portion going to solve some of that concern that we have?
That's a great question. So during the initial outbreak where we were gone a year ago,
Yeah.
a year ago
I know,
that happened.
Spring break, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that automation system, Mr. Zimmerman could set every building to open up dampers for fresh air intake, and he could set that schedule from his computer. So yes, can it help? Absolutely. And I think we have kept more fresh air coming in because we can see that what's open, what's closed, and we can regulate that. So yes, we can.
It's great to see. The water filtration systems, is that, I'm just thinking of kind of like at the gym, is that like your big?
Yeah, where you put your water in.
Yeah, which
like at the
might
airport.
seem silly, but I have 3 kids that if they forget their water bottle in the morning, it is horrific when they get home. They're like, I have camels, first of all, 3 kids that are camels. But I think with COVID especially, these kids aren't free to just go to the restroom and get a drink of water. It's bring a water bottle, have it all day with you. I mean, I fill them with ice so that they're cold all day, and that's really good to see it on that. I figured
Or
it was
touching the front. I mean, it takes away that touch front. Or
there's no contact at all. So that's, I actually think that's pretty decent price for how many we're probably going to put in. And then this might be kind of a dumb question, but the lock, what are they called? Key boxes?
Knox box.
Those aren't at any schools correct yet. Sounds
Yes.
like it's, oh, we do
We
have
do
some.
have it
Okay.
at some schools,
When you
yes.
said ordinance, I thought maybe it was something new that the city was requiring, but we do currently have them at some schools.
We do have them at some
Are
schools.
they like well hidden? Are they not able to get in? Are they
on the door?
They're on the door, okay.
I mean,
like,
not
have
on the door,
I'm
I'm
thinking,
sorry.
have I
On
seen
the
them at
wall
any
by the
schools?
door.
Okay. So probably relatively small and just, I'm gonna have to pay attention
yeah.
now next time I go to a school. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever really noticed, which is probably the point, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's supposed to be just part of the woodwork, if you
Yeah,
will.
that one was just kind of a curiosity question, but.
Yeah, it's close to the front door.
Okay, I'll have to pay attention next time I head into a school. Hopefully soon we can visit schools, so. Well, those are my 3 questions, so thank you so much. Thanks for
You're
your time.
welcome. You bet.
Mrs. Erdenberger?
Thank you. I think I might be following up or restating the question that I think Mr. Snow was asking, and that is, in connection with spending down the remaining bond proceeds, presumably the requisitions and things go through the process where bond counsel or somebody is looking at them. So that is presumably the methodology that's used to make sure that we're not using money from this bond issue to pay for something that's in another one. So as long as each requisition and approval goes through the process that's in the indenture, then presumably we know that it's coming out of the right tranche and for purposes that were originally defined. So your question about Educare, I think, is going to be answered by they can't pull it out to pay for something else.
I'm
I
100%
think.
certain I don't think we put any, because Educare is built by, the Educares are built by a private donor, and then the district assumes the ongoing costs and operations of those. And fire life safety, those Educare centers were a lot newer, but I mean, I'm 100% certain there was no Educare centers on that first phase.
I'll get that information to you, Mr. Snow.
Thank you,
I'll get it to
Dr.
Mr. Ray to get to
I
Mr.
could be
Snow.
wrong though.
Ms.
Yeah,
Erdenberger, were you
Educare's
finished with your
listed.
question? Vice President Erdenberger, are you finished with your question?
So when we
Are you
code
finished?
out, when we everything has to come to the board for approval, and it will say 2014 bond, and it will have a fund code that is related to the 2014 bond.
Thank you.
Mr. Thielen?
I'm going to ask the same question in a different way. 3rd time. So just to be clear, I think Mr. Snow has been here a lot longer than I have, so I wasn't here when the first bond issue was passed. But presumably there were a lot of things on our list of things that we wanted to do when that bond issue was made. Not all of them could be done because of money, right? What of the things that we're looking at tonight, how many of those were already on the list that we just didn't get to?
I would say probably the automation systems where the Knox boxes are new, and the hydration stations, where we could, like in our new additions, when we did a rebuild, we would put a hydration station in.
I see.
But these would be in some of the buildings where we didn't look at an add-on or a renovation, or a whole building renovation. So it would be something new.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Crackey?
At the end of your presentation, you talked about this would take care of 60% of whatever that was, and I was wondering, who's going to take care of the rest? Have we already done the rest? What about that?
So the Knox was it with the Knox boxes in 60 schools? So there are some schools that are already done, and as we go through the 2018 bond, we'll add them to those schools.
So how many are left to do then?
I can get that answer for you as well. I don't have that in front of me.
So that would be just 60% will be done and the rest will not be done?
And it was actually 60 schools, not 60%.
Okay.
So the rest would likely be covered, but let me get that answer for you.
I know. I know that you were talking about 60 schools, not percent.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I'll get those locations to you.
Mrs. Neely-Sprash is going to provide some clarification too on how we can spend the monies moving forward, to answer your question, Mr. Snow, and yours, Mr.
Yes. So the question with regard to what can we spend bond money on, the calls are written very broadly so that it enables us, when we get to this point, that we have some flexibility with regard to what we can spend the money on. There aren't specific schools listed in the calls, so it is generally any buildings upon which that we have additional funds that we can spend them on. So Educare buildings, for example, are buildings that we own that are our buildings. And so, it is very broad, and the flexibility provides you so that at the end that you can spend that money in a way that helps the fire, life, and safety, or the best interests of the kids of Omaha Public Schools. So there's great flexibility with regard to that on there. So,
Vice President Erdenberger?
Actually, I think my question is, thank you, but I think it's better suited to you. I got a little nervous when I found out that it was our approval of the consent items, which was the way that we made sure it was authorized. So,
no,
I just want to make sure that before we are asked to approve an expenditure, what is the process for making sure that we are because worst case is we misspend it and we've got taxable bonds.
Sure, absolutely. And so, when ideas like this come up, like, okay, we have $1.7 million left to spend, what can we spend them on? Ideas were floated. That's brought to me. I bring that to our bond council. We have a conversation about what, does this fall within our authority under the bond? But generally speaking, most things do. And so my answer was, it's so general that so often it does. It's very rarely where we say that we can't spend that on X, or Y. Some examples where it's very specified, for example, is the acquisition of property. That's Bond 1 funds in there. So that give you an example of where it's limited.
Yeah, so I think what I was asking was, what was the step that takes place before we approve the purchase? And you've just told me.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Head?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and I really appreciate the information. All these projects sound great, and it sounds like things that I could definitely support. But I guess it's always kind of a pet peeve of mine when I hear a governmental entity saying, "Oh, we've got this money and we have to spend it by a certain date," and so we're kind of creating pet projects. Granted, I understand that the bond money has to be spent for what the voters passed the bond for. So is refunding this money to the taxpayer an option?
It would depend on what tranches that we've issued so far. Mr. Roberts, have we issued a tranche on this?
Yeah, I think the primary option available to us, if we were not to spend the money, the primary option available to us would be to retain the money to pay principal and interest on the tranches that have been drawn down on the 2014 bonds.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the allocation of the remaining funds in the 2014 bond program.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mrs. Crackey. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Smith?
Aye.
Snipes?
Aye.
Snow?
No.
Thielen?
Aye.
Cassidy?
Aye.
Erdenberger?
Aye.
Head?
No.
Hellman?
Aye.
Crackey?
Aye.
7-0.
Motion carries. Okay, now we move on to information items. Item J2A, information on the Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan, Next Level Learning for Summer 2021, and we have Ms. Colmine here with us this evening.
Good evening, President Dr. Hellman, Vice President Erdenberger, Superintendent Dr. Logan, and members of the board. I am Melissa Comine, the Chief Academic Officer for Omaha Public Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to share an update on summer school, now called Next Level Learning for Summer 2021, which is one of our 9 focus areas in the Omaha Public Schools Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan. As you are aware, the disruptions of the pandemic are real. These disruptions call for urgent, aggressive, and compassionate action that addresses unfinished teaching and learning, accelerates student achievement, and supports the individual needs of students as we move forward together. We have a lot of ground to cover. We know this will take time. We are taking action, and tonight you are receiving an update on our first short-term goal, which is summer programming called Next Level Learning for Summer 2021. Over the past 6 weeks, we have had the pleasure of meeting with 15 focus groups for listening and input sessions. We will continue to meet with focus groups moving forward. Each focus group received a description and overview of the Academic Acceleration and Recovery Plan and its 9 focus areas. Each focus group was asked for input on the plan. Teacher and parent groups were also asked to provide additional and specific input around our next level learning for summer 2021. After reviewing input from the focus groups for next level learning for summer 2021, 6 themes emerged for this year's summer programming. They are: rename summer school to eliminate any past perceptions and to represent our renewed focus on summer programming. As a result, summer school is renamed Next Level Learning for Summer 2021. Create a summer school experience that is engaging for all students. Focus on literacy and mathematics. Incorporate thematic or project-based learning and enrichment opportunities. Include social-emotional learning, and provide flexible scheduling options for students and families. In addition to the focus groups, a survey was sent to all OPS families to gather their input for next level learning for summer 2021. This survey was sent to families last Tuesday, and the survey will close next Tuesday, February 23rd. As of yesterday morning, our OPS research office reported that 3,337 surveys have been completed, and the responses to the survey are consistent with the 6 themes previously mentioned. We know there is a wide range of learning that individual students achieved at the end of the 1920 school year and through this current school year. As a result, all students will have the opportunity to participate in the next level learning for summer 2021. This includes all students currently enrolled in early childhood entering kindergarten next fall, and all students in kindergarten through high school. The dates for next level learning for summer 2021 are June 2nd through the 30th and July 6th through the 23rd. Students will have an option to enroll in AM, PM, full day, or 1-hour sessions. One-to-one tutoring will also be provided. Guided by our 6 themes and input from stakeholders, we have created an engaging and enriching summer learning program for all OPS students. The elementary day begins with a focus on social-emotional learning in partnership with our school counselors. Then literacy is taught for 90 minutes with a focus on foundational skills, reading and writing with time for small group instruction, targeting student needs. Math is then taught for 60 minutes in the morning with a focus on prioritized standards and concepts, including foundational skills, number concepts, and operation. The afternoon will include rotations that will highly engage students. The first rotation will include theme-based, project-based learning time for an hour, followed by a literacy lab and a math lab, each with one-to-one teacher time, small group work, and blended learning. Early childhood students will be provided a full day of language development, literacy, math, learning through play, and readiness lessons for kindergarten. Middle school will begin its summer learning experience by providing a welcome camp for any student transitioning to the next grade level during the first 3 days of June 2nd, June 3rd, and June 4th. This will be an all-day experience for students participating. Students will focus on team building, transitioning to the new grade level, school procedures and routines, and school expectations. Beginning the following week, June 7th, this will kick off the first term option with the second term option beginning on July 6th. The day for our middle school will consist of 4 blocks: an ELA and reading block, a math block, a STEM block, and high interest enrichment rotations. Enrichment options may include digital citizenship, entrepreneurship, makerspace, career exploration, fine arts, spoken word, creative, writers and poetry, etc. At the high school level, incoming 9th grade students will be invited to participate in a Jump Start program all day on the first 3 days of June, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Freshmen will also have an opportunity to enroll in elective courses that will jumpstart their high school experience in earning elective credit in the areas of academic literacy, literacy skills, and physical education. Freshmen will also be invited to participate in school-specific enrichment opportunities. Grades 10, 11, and 12 will focus on credit recovery, some accrual options, and enrichment. Credit recovery courses will be based on student course registrations. We are very excited to announce that for the first time in the Omaha Public Schools, we will be offering a paid summer internship to Omaha Public School students to work in our elementary schools. OPS high school students age 16 and up are eligible to apply for high school paid summer internship work. They will work with OPS elementary staff to mentor and tutor students in shifts, either in the AM, PM, or all day. Interns will be paid $10 an hour for their work. OPS Human Resources will be marketing for these positions in the spring, and Human Resources will work to place high school interns in elementary schools close to their homes. OPS high school students who need to take summer classes for enrichment, accrual, or credit recovery are still able to do so in the morning and then work in the afternoon. In addition, high school interns will be eligible to receive career and technical education elective credit on their OPS transcript for 90 hours of successful internship completion supervised by a high school internship coordinator. One more opportunity that we are working on is the possibility to offer our high school paid interns the ability to take a Metropolitan Community College Human Relations course for dual credit over the summer. This course will support students in the work they do in the elementary schools, a future career, and add 3 college credits to their dual enrollment college transcript. The cost will be covered by OPS, and the courses will be delivered by OPS or Metro Community College adjunct faculty. During focus group conversations, it was clear that all students should have the opportunity to attend our next level learning for summer 2021. Flexibility is one of the 6 themes that guided our planning. This includes flexible scheduling options for students as well as flexible schedules for teachers. Human Resources will advertise next level learning for summer 2021 opportunities, both internally and externally. Internal candidates will receive preference in hiring. Flexible schedules will include part day, which is a half-day AM or PM option, or a limited number of weeks, meaning not working the entire 7 weeks. Staff will also have the option for job sharing, which involves 2 staff sharing the same position, either on alternating days, hours, or weeks. In addition, Human Resources is exploring community and university partners to provide enough staff to meet student needs. This also becomes a way for us to recruit future OPS employees. Our time is underway and we are moving forward quickly. Student and staff recruitment begins in March. Families will be able to enroll students from March 1st through the 31st. Staffing positions will post next week. Postings will be for internal and external simultaneously. All postings will be left open through March, but those that apply by March 15th will receive priority in hiring and placement. We may have to repost certain positions if we do not have enough candidates to fill. In these cases, they would be reposted in mid to late April. This concludes our update for summer programming. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Ms. Colmine. I'm going to go ahead and start first, if you don't mind. My first question is, with the 2 sessions that are being offered for summer school, will those be determined by the district, or will families be able to decide which session they are interested in attending?
Families will decide.
And then I was also wondering too, for those families or students that will have the longer day, the 6-hour day, will there be opportunities for physical activity and so forth?
Yes, if you are an elementary student and you choose a full day option, actually this is true for middle school and high school as well, breakfast and lunch will be served. Students will participate in their morning summer programming, also their afternoon summer programming, and then each level has an hour in the afternoon that we have purposefully extended. So they'll have 30 minutes for lunch and recess if they're an elementary student, but then they're going to have 30 minutes of team building time, club time, and that's where we're planning and hoping to partner with our after-school partners as well. That consistent 1-hour theme in the middle of the day will continue at the middle school level as well as the high school level. It obviously looks a little bit different at every level due to the developmental age of the students. So at the high school level, it will look more like an intersession where students will have a grab-and-go lunch. They'll have an opportunity to sit and do work. They'll have an opportunity to have tutoring, check in with their teachers, and complete coursework and so forth.
Great. As far as the academic content, is that going to be pre-developed, especially like for, I'm thinking more sort of elementary students, is that going to be pre-developed content for the teachers, or will they have autonomy in developing the lesson and the content that they teach the students?
So it's a little bit of both. When you take a look at our English language arts or our mathematics, we always provide the curriculum. When we add enrichment and project-based learning, we are going to be asking our schools and our teachers at all 3 levels to help with that planning.
Okay, thank you. And then any idea, well, you probably have to wait for numbers, I suppose, but any idea of how many student interns that you would like to have?
20-some thousand? No. We would love to have as many as we can get. We want many, hundreds.
Do you have
hundreds.
qualifications yet, or is there an application process?
There will be an application process through our Human Resources Department. So they will go through a similar hiring process that our current staff does.
Okay. And
she's giggling because I said a number that was really low and that I thought was ambitious, and I was so tickled the team was much more even ambitious than I.
We have a position for everybody, and they can still participate in summer learning.
All right, and my last 2 questions. Regarding pay, do you have an idea, and I'm not sure if you can discuss this now, but do you have an idea if the teacher pay will be similar to what it has been in the past, or with the ESSER funds, are we able to provide teachers an increased pay or anything like that, or I'm just asking.
Dr. Hellman, summer school pay is a negotiated item in our contract.
Okay.
So teachers are paid $28.50 an hour.
All right. Could you repeat, please? She didn't hear.
$28.50 an hour.
All right. And then my final question is, I just want to make sure I'm understanding and I read everything correctly in regards to the building administrators for summer school. So typically in the past, the regular year summer school would, or principal would be the principal for summer school, but this year there's going to be interviewing
Not necessarily.
for this.
Not necessarily, only if they want to.
We're supposed to have a meeting today to discuss summer school principal placement and identification. Somebody in this group canceled it, and I won't name who it is, but I did. So we are still working on that, but we will work actively with our current principals. We also want to provide an opportunity for some of our future leaders that are not principals yet to give them some of that experience, because that's outstanding experience to develop leadership.
And would that also be a shared opportunity, possibly like what our teachers might be able to do as well?
Yeah, we have for years offered a job share at the principal level for summer school.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mrs. Cracky?
I just wanted to comment on how great that is to use the students to help. And it's a good opportunity, and we know our students, and we know who's going to be good at doing that. It's just like when they came to the classroom from the high schools and helped for the 3-week stint in there. It was just great. They're really good. So I think that's really something wonderful that we will be doing. And just think of the jobs that we'll be providing for those students and the money that they can make. And certainly the person who writes us up in the World Herald will probably highlight that tomorrow so that the word gets out there.
Yes, thank you. And I will add that we wanted to do student paid internships last year, and then COVID hit. And so this is the opportunity where we can start. When we met with parent groups, our high school parent group, they actually brought this recommendation up as well. And all of the parent input groups have been very energetic, a lot of positive energy. But when the student intern piece came up at the high school parent group, just the level of excitement grew even 10 times more. And so very excited about this opportunity for our students.
It's really hard for those students to be able to make money or to get a position in the summer. It's really hard.
Yes. Well, we have one for all of them.
And I think it's great, and I know the World Herald will really highlight that.
Mrs. Cassidy?
Thank you very much. First of all, wow, a lot of this is really outside of the box, so kudos to your team. I just imagine you guys sitting at a table just throwing out ideas and brainstorming, because a lot of this is just, it seems like I love the flexibility first off, for our families, for our students. I know we have a lot of students that maybe don't always need summer school, but now they find themselves knowing that they're struggling, especially some of our high school students. So I really appreciate the different AM, PM. I mean, there is flexibility in here for everyone. I see that. I also really appreciate the flexibility for our staff, because teachers are, as we all have stated throughout pretty much the evening and the last 11 months, our teachers are tired. Hopefully some of them that are feeling like they still need that summer school income, but they are tired, this will appeal to them, that maybe they can job share or they can just do half a day. So that piece is wonderful as well. So just a couple logistical questions. So students can choose either session, first or second, and can they also choose both sessions?
Yes.
Okay, I figured as much, and then I guess the 1 hour ones are kind of throwing me a little bit. If students choose 1 hour, who are we looking at as that type of target? Is that maybe like a high school student that maybe only feels like they're struggling in math, so they just want, can they kind of choose what they're wanting that 1 hour focus to be on, I guess? The 1 hour one is the one that's kind of who would choose that and what would it look like?
It's a little bit different.
I know.
Depending on the level. Elementary, we have built in one-on-one for every student, so they can choose a 1 hour or a 3 hour or a 6 hour.
Okay.
And that will be delivered by teacher, student intern, para, or potentially all three.
Okay.
But we built it into the school day. At the middle school and high school level, we're hiring some additional staff so that students can sign up for one-on-one tutoring. And so if I'm a teacher who's hired to do that in secondary, I just might have a list of the students, and that's what I do all day long, is provide the one-on-one tutoring. We also have built into the middle school schedules that hour during the day or at the lunchtime where students can go and get additional supports as well.
Okay. Let's see. I love the Jump Start. I think that's great. I know we've already had that in some of our schools. And I don't know if we've had that every year, but I would love to see that back on there because that's a great program. I think my next one, someone in here is going to ask, so I'm just going to ask it. And this is probably Mr. Wakefield or maybe Mr. Roberts. The tutoring paid positions, where is that money coming from? Is that out of our general fund? You know someone's going to ask it, so I'll just ask it.
ESSERS, we know, remember we just got
okay.
$83 or $86 million
Should've guessed.
as a part of ESSERS, so we have funds to support
Okay,
that.
good to know. I think that's
As
it
well
for-
as state reimbursed summer school. So the state reimburses for some, for summer school for the students who are in summer school 6 hours, is that correct?
There's a reimbursement based off of 3 hours and 6 hours. To get a full reimbursement, it's usually 6 hours a day, and a student has to attend so many days out of the summer school session.
Okay. And the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on is, I know some of our current community partners that run their programming coinciding with our summer school. That seems like it should fit into this pretty nicely, where they'll be able to continue their program but alter off of what we're doing. Is that what we're envisioning?
Yes.
Okay.
So Lisa Utterbach, Chief of Student Community Services, has been in contact with them. And then myself, along with Susan and Donna behind me, we have a meeting with them tomorrow afternoon to engage and do a little bit more deeper planning.
Okay. That's good to hear because those programs are very beneficial, and I know a lot of parents that summer school ends. Is this a later ending for, is it elementary? Is 4 o'clock later than we normally for
It
summer
is,
school? Okay,
it is.
that's what I
So
thought.
elementary, if you choose the full day option, is 9 to 4.
Okay.
In the past, it's been more of a like an
3 o'clock.
8:30 to 3:30,
Yeah.
8 to 3.
Okay, I knew it was similar, but I know those community partners then come in, fill that gap for parents that maybe can't pick up till after 5 p.m. working hours. So that's good to hear that that should work well for them to blend in and complement our program. So thank you for that. I think that's it for now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Head?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I think you've already answered a number of my questions. It sounds like for the student tutors and interns, you're essentially willing to take, anyone and everyone who applies. We need as many as possible. Is that what I heard?
They will have to make it through Mr. Wakefield's application process, but we are encouraging you all to apply.
Okay, and that was actually the next question that I had was how are we selecting the students who are going to be interns? Because I'm thinking back to when I was in high school, I would definitely have no business tutoring someone else. But if you tell me you're going to give me $10 an hour, I'm all over it. So how are we making sure that the students that we're hiring as tutors are actually doing the job and know the material that they're teaching?
So I can answer the curriculum side of it, and if Mr. Wakefield would like to add with the human resources side. So the student paid internship, it is a partnership. I had mentioned that we are still in the process of working with Metro Community College. We hope to offer a dual credit option.
Okay.
And so if that's the case, they'll take a 3-hour human relations course. And part of that course is an orientation to what they will be doing in our elementary schools. In addition to that, we have to hire what we call, I'll just call them like a teacher to supervise them, and they will have to monitor their hours, they'll have to check in with them. The students will need to complete some type of writing project or capstone or summary project at the end of the experience as well. So in addition to them having a student paid internship and working with the district, working with the school principal, the teacher that they're working side by side, we are not having our students be alone with other students. They will always be in a supervised room with another staff member that's hired, but they will also have that additional high school supervisor that supervises a number of the interns as well.
Thank you. And then is this also only available to OPS students, or if we need
Yes.
more, are we going to open it up to other students in the metro area?
So we are only opening this up to Omaha Public Schools high school students.
Okay.
We also are opening up paraprofessional positions, and so they will be doing some similar type work. So we will be able to fill needed positions by interns or paras. It would be an and.
Okay. And is there going to be a virtual option as well as in person for the students who might not be able to come to the classroom?
We are offering face-to-face only.
Okay. And then let's see. How many teachers do we think we're going to need? I know it's difficult, when students haven't started signing up yet, kind of anticipating how much you're going to need, but.
So what we did was, one, this is the first year we are allowing all students to participate, and rightfully so. And so at the elementary level, we typically, if you look at our historical data, have about 7,000 students who enroll in elementary summer school. We decided to, we just have estimated this is what it looks like if you have 40% enroll, 60%, 70%, 80%, or 90%. And so if we have 40% enroll, I think it was around a little over 600 teachers at the elementary level. When we looked at our middle schools and high schools, we took a look at the past 3 years of historical enrollment at each individual site, and then we forecasted an additional 20%. That 20% number seemed right when you take a look at the number of course failure rates with the data that was presented about a month ago. It was about a 15% increase, so we did a 20% increase to cover that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Snipes?
Thank you, Dr. Hellman. Thank you for the presentation. Really great, and I probably have some questions that have already been asked. Let's see, where do I want to start? So you talked about enrichment programming. I'm wondering what type of enrichment programming at the middle and high school level, and then, well, I'll ask that first.
Okay, so the enrichment is one of the areas we're going to ask our schools to help plan. And so next week, Susan is going to be sharing the summer programming with the middle school and high school principals. Donna will be sharing with elementary principals tomorrow. So we are providing them suggestions, but we're really asking them put together a local work group based off of their community, based off of their student interests, and also based off of the staff that they would have to hire for those enrichment opportunities. Some of the things that we would, all of the opportunities do need to be tied to some type of content standard. So digital citizenship, entrepreneurship, there could be some fine arts, some creative writing, different things like that.
Okay. And then, thank you. I saw on there staffing help from community partners. What all type of staffing are you going to be looking for outside of what was already mentioned, like tutors, et cetera?
So at the elementary level, we would love to have them help us during the day, before school, during school, lunchtime, after school if they're needed. One of the things we're going to ask them to lead, and we're hoping that they do that tomorrow, is that hour in between the AM and the PM block at elementary. And what we're calling it is we want them to make it as fun and wild, as engaging as they can, to allow our students to be physically active, to interact with each other, do clubs, just get them back to living like they're used to by themselves and with their other students.
Okay, that was at the elementary level.
And that's at the elementary level. And then at the high school level, they also do the before and after school programming as well.
Okay. I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Snipes. Ms. Erdenberger?
This does sound really exciting. It sounds like we've achieved two objectives, which is to make it fun and something people might want to do, but also accomplish a great deal. So I'm super excited. I agree with Mrs. Cassidy. The notion of sitting around and brainstorming how to get this to be exactly what we want sounds great. But now you have to answer my questions. A couple of them. First of all, for the elementary and I guess probably, well, for all of them, is there a credit recovery for these kids as well? So they're taking some actually structured curriculum where they act, I don't even know, do elementary kids fail classes?
So we offer, students obtain credit at high school. So during the high school sessions, there is going to be credit recovery, credit accrual, and also enrichment. And then in addition, the welcoming camp will happen as well for those that are new, incoming freshmen. And then we'll also offer some additional opportunities for our freshmen for accrual credit early.
So that's for our high school kids. What about, I guess what I'm asking is at elementary and middle school, are there actually credits that they are recovering, or just
No.
they're
No.
enjoying learning how to read a little bit more and whatnot? Okay, so that was one of my questions. The eligible interns, a GPA requirement, this kind of follows up on what Mr. Head was saying, a GPA requirement, a background check. I mean, if there's a wide variety of things that you might want to take into consideration. So what are you doing?
So we do have a current process for student workers. Pre-pandemic, we hired many student workers. We do look for a 2.0 GPA. We also require a teacher reference from a current teacher to support the student's ability to do the work we're asking for that student work. We do a background check as well. Because they're under age of majority, we do have to have parent consent to do that.
Got it, thanks. And have you thought about, this is, I think, back to her, thank you. I'm assuming there's students that are in at UNO. Now, $10 isn't very much for, once you're, can drive a car and whatnot, but have we thought about letting UNO students apply for these jobs as well, especially if they're in the College of Education already?
So we are, with the number of pairs that we potentially may need, we're a bit concerned. So we are going to reach out to the College of Educations for UNO, UNL, et cetera, and encourage staff or students in those programs to apply. Additionally, if with summer school, we often have to hire teachers outside of OPS. So the 200 to 300 new teachers we hire a year will also be offered opportunities to work summer school as well, to give them a jump start on a paycheck before they start teaching for us full time.
Cool, great, thank you. One of the things you talked about, it was that some students would get the opportunity for earning a credit at like Metro or something. Are we paying the tuition, or is that something that they would be responsible for?
We would pay for that.
Okay. And is this something that we're assuming is going to be at just about every single school in the district, and are we providing transportation?
The student interns, we are anticipating having them at every elementary school.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the entire enrichment program. It's going to be available at every single school in the district?
So at the secondary level, actually at the elementary and secondary level, we do have some bond work or some, things that need to be fixed in the summer at some of our schools. And so District Operational Services has provided those sites to us. So we do have some combined sites at the secondary level and also at the elementary level for that reason. Depending on how many students enroll, we will determine if we need to combine additional elementary sites.
And is transportation assumed to be included or not?
Yes, so transportation will be provided for eligible students. At the elementary level, we will provide transportation at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. If families choose a 1 hour or a half-day option, they may be able to participate in transportation to school or home, but they're going to have to provide, families will have to provide transportation on one of those other pickups or drop-offs. That's also true at the middle school level. At the high school level, we are going to offer transportation at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, and at the end of the day.
Great. Now, you talked about job sharing, which I'm assuming is going to have a lot of appeal to people that have just come off of a really rough year. Do we decide, you said whatever they work out, is that really like if I pair up with Dr. Hellman, she and I can decide how we're going to do this? Or what kind of structures or limits are we imposing on job sharing? Does it, do you know?
We will provide some structure and limits on it. The biggest limit on it is both parties have to agree to the job sharing. It doesn't necessarily always have to be 50-50, but both parties have to agree and commit to their part of the job share.
That's cool. I think that's fantastic. Speaking of how much work our teachers have done in the last year and how worn out they're likely to be this summer, a couple questions. How much curriculum writing assistance are we or could we provide at the district level? That's my first question, then I have another one. But
So we provide a lot of curriculum development. We will provide we'll provide all of it for the ELA and the math and science and the STEM and pieces like that, where we're asking our elementary to support, and we'll have support at the district level, is in the project-based learning, because we will be asking our schools, to help develop that based off of their interest, and that is also true at the secondary level. I think we've included like 50 hours of extra pay for local groups and work groups at the secondary level to come together to create that.
okay, I think that was part of my question too, was going to be, are we paying somebody if we need extra? Speaking of paying somebody, I find it very hard to imagine that teachers coming off of the year we've just had, where we've had very little latitude in being, there was very little latitude in coming up with things that made their lives easier, because it was just so demanding, and there wasn't a lot of leeway on that. Are we really stuck with the 2850? Because I honestly can't help but think that that's too low. Is there a signing bonus we could consider or something, or is that something you haven't talked about yet?
Teacher pay is a negotiated item, so any change to that would have to be negotiated with our union. 2850 is currently what's in our contract.
Okay, I guess coming from my background and the way I see how things have gone the last year, would like to encourage you to think about entering into negotiations and a signing bonus or something, because I honestly think that A, we owe it to our teachers, and B, I think it would help staff up this huge undertaking with people that are happy to be there. That's just all I'm saying. Thank you.
Mr. Thielen?
Thank you, Dr. Hellman. It sounds like you're really anticipating that we'll take however many kids are going to sign up. Am I hearing that correctly? Are there number limitations that we have due to space or, staffing concerns?
So we are inviting, every student will have an opportunity to participate. Staffing, we have developed a lot of different ways to hire staff. And so we are anticipating and being able to move forward with the students that enroll in the summer programming.
Great. Again, I'm kind of feeling like Ms. Cassidy, I'm just trying to kind of understand a little bit more about the AM, PM, and how the subjects might be split up among the day, and how as the parent or student might decide, I want to be there in the morning or I want to be there in the afternoon. Is curriculum split up that way, or is it like, we're doing math in the morning and English in the afternoon? How would you decide, or is that, am I getting that right?
So the application process will explain that.
Okay.
So at elementary, there'll be a social emotional piece in the morning. There will also be an ELA math block, and an ELA block and a math block. So parents will know this is what the morning looks like. Okay. Parents will know what this is the afternoon looks like. At elementary, what the afternoon looks like is 3 one-hour rotations. Students will be able to participate in project-based learning for an hour, then they'll rotate to a blended learning ELA lab, and then rotate through an blended learning math lab. And so there's still that focus on ELA and math, but also bringing in the STEM approach. And so it covers same content standards, goes deep, but it looks a little bit different.
Yeah, so for those kids that are staying there the whole day, they're going to see something a little bit different.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, a big part of this is, learning recovery, right? So we're going to have students at a kind of broad spectrum of where they are and what they've learned over the course of the last 6 months, year, right? When we look at curriculum, right, kind of a set curriculum, how do we kind of balance that versus with the idea that we need to individualize this a little bit to where the kiddos are?
So the curriculum, we will, if I am a second grader, I'm going to have an opportunity to engage in second grade curriculum or above. If I have unfinished learning that requires additional scaffolding or supports below second grade, that will be built into the curriculum.
Okay.
And so the teachers will be providing whole group instruction. Even within whole group, you can differentiate and provide additional scaffolds and supports. We'll have additional supports in the classroom to help with that as well, in the form of paraprofessional support, special education teachers, as well as some English learner teachers as well. And then also they'll have small group support, which differentiates it even more, and then some one-on-one support that really differentiates it even further. We are having some technology adaptive tools which will provide that one-on-one support where a student exactly is, whether they're below grade level, on grade level, or actually beyond their grade level.
Sure. Thank you.
Ms. Cracky, one of the things that was mentioned, the word came up, enrichment. So are we going to provide any of the enrichment activities, or will that be the person who is above could go to the grade above for that session, or the grade below? Is that how we will address those children that need more?
So the children that need more adaptive tools are going to be available. When you take a look at the project-based learning, at the elementary level, our GATE teachers, our gifted and talented education teachers, have all been trained in project-based learning, and so we are going to be working with them to help develop the curriculum, and that curriculum will be accessible for all students regardless of their level of learning.
All right. How about field trips? Is that a part of what they can do during their time?
So right now during COVID, we are not taking field trips, and so we are not planning on that this summer.
Do we have a process of evaluating the math and the reading at the end of this session?
So
we do?
Yes. So part of our academic acceleration and recovery plan, we have a meeting next Monday, and assessment is one of the topics of that meeting, and summer school will be a part of that conversation.
And will you bring that evaluation to us at the end of the process so we get to see what happened?
We'll be happy to share the evaluation and metrics, yes.
It sounds like, it really just sounds really good. I bet a lot of children will want to do it. I really think so. I really do. I think we'll have a big enrollment because they want to get together with others, for one thing.
We agree. Thank you.
Mr. Snell?
Thank you, President Dr. Hellman. I just have 3 questions. I'll ask the easy one first. Does OPS take Title 20 money?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Does OPS participate in Title 20 child care services? Could we be under that umbrella? And the reason why I'm asking is many of our families over the summer go, especially OPS kids, their families qualify for Title 20, which allows them to take their child to a daycare for that entire summer. And if we are doing credit recovery that goes 2 months, I know I've talked to board members and other people that, even people that work in that industry, parents are dropping that kid off and they're gone. So there's a disengagement there. But if OPS is providing everything that you described in this, to my knowledge, kind of meets that criteria to be like a licensed child care facility.
Yeah, I will look into that further. I don't believe that we are, though.
And the reason why is it's additional funds. If the district was able to be, I don't think we could possibly, but if we were a facility that was a child care licensed facility or could work with someone that could take those kids in after school or before, I think is an opportunity to look down. The next question I have is I'm in awe of all the work you've been able to do with everything else thrown at you and being able to be innovative. But with all innovation comes a dollar amount. What is the full dollar amount of summer school for this, not summer school, but this new summer learning program that you expect? And it might not be a question for you, it might be for Dr.
Yeah,
Logan.
we're not ready to. We did review today some of the anticipated, but until we have a better student count, we can't really give you a ballpark. So we'll as soon as we are, I believe enrollment starts in March. So in April, we'll be able to give you closer to what we anticipate being a dollar amount for that.
I understand. And actually, we have the ESSERS funds, the 86 million. Is all the 86 million for summer school?
No, it's for recovery. The ESSERS 2 funds can cover a lot of things. There's a lot of latitude that's given. And many districts are going to use it to upgrade HVAC systems. That's something we certainly can do. You can use it for recovery. It really gives a lot of latitude to districts to use it for any kind of COVID recovery or addressing issues that arose from COVID, which is why they're allowing it for infrastructure needs for districts as well.
Okay. I would possibly for the next update, I would probably, when you do get those numbers, to have that come for the board so we can see the full scope of summer school, how it's just to know the reality of, I think we went from spending $3 million and this number we don't know yet until the enrollment's done. But I think it's something everyone should know, especially when you're talking about credit recovery. And this is probably not going to be something that's going to be a one-time fix. And those ESSER funds are going to be gone in the next year or so, most likely. So this will become a cost that the district will have to continue, which I think we should, and to make sure that our students are able to get back to that level pre-pandemic.
Well, actually, the ESSERS funds currently, as the law is written, expire in September of 2023, so it's 2 years and 6 months away from expiration, and there is an expectation that that will be extended at least 6 months into 2024. But as the law is currently written, it's September of 2023.
Okay. That's else for me, so I appreciate that. And the last question I had, just for summer school with our students and stuff, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly. Summer school is all going to be centralized still, right? Or is it going to be like have one person over all summer school, or are we having individual principals over each school?
Each summer school site will have a principal.
Okay, we'll have a principal. Okay. I thought I overheard that it would be centralized, like one person will be responsible for the implementation of all of summer school. But I was wrong. That's all my.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Not a lot of questions at all. First off, congratulations. I appreciate the name change, Next Level Learning. That's phenomenal. It's a lot of language that you use and things that we're going to be doing as far as credit recovery and the accrual thing. I think it's really innovative. The internship program is phenomenal. With things that I do at a community-based organization, and the internships that we offer, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for partnership. I think it's I want to recognize the innovation and the leadership of you and your team just to kind of make this happen for our students. It gives us an intentional chance to provide them with opportunities, experiences, and options. And so a lot of things that we heard from parents today, you just answered those questions until they would have stayed till 9:09. I just want to say that OPS has always offered summer school, so this is nothing really new in the budget. The money will be there for our students, and if not, then I think we have a responsibility to find it and be able to continue to offer these opportunities to our kids. And again, there's a quote I want to say because it was brought up: innovation is rewarded, execution is worship. And so I think we have a really good opportunity to make this happen. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Can I ask 3 more questions? I'm sorry. Really quick ones, though. When do you expect for applications to go out to families?
In March, parent-teacher conferences start next week for elementary, so that's when that process will start. And then our counselors really kind of help us with that process at the secondary levels, and that will start in March as well.
Okay, and then for the teachers that are be working full-time, will they get plan time at all?
Yes, they will. All of the teachers, elementary, middle, and high, will have some plan time, and that is new this year.
Oh, great. And then my last question is, final question hopefully, for you, is like we're having a jump start for 9th graders, will we have a quasi jump start for incoming kindergartners by chance?
Yes, so all of our early childhood students who are entering kindergarten in the fall will have an opportunity to participate in a full-day early learning experience, and then we'll have a welcome, we're calling it a welcome camp at both the middle and the high school level. At middle school, if you are new to middle school, whether you're new 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, you will be invited this year because last year they didn't have an opportunity to actually participate on site. So we'll offer that at all grades for students who are incoming new at the middle level. And then we'll have a welcome camp for our 9th graders as well. And then they will also have additional 9th grade opportunities.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer all of our questions tonight. We really, really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, moving quickly so we can get this going. Moving on to J2B Student Assignment Plan Board Committee Update, Ms. Cassidy.
Okay, let me grab my notes here. We've been busy, so I've got a little bit, but I'll keep this brief. A lot of what's on my notes, Dr. Logan actually already alluded to in her opening comments. So I'll quickly go over a quick recap. First of all, our Student Assignment Plan Committee is comprised of 4 of us, and it's a fairly new committee. So our new committee members are, to my right here, Mr. Head, to my left, Mr. Snow, and then Mr. Thielen is our 3rd committee member, and of course myself. So our focus for our first 2 meetings, our first meeting was held on January 25th, and then we had a second meeting kind of to finish up on February 8th. And the main focus of our meetings was pretty much to kind of pull everything together that we had already discussed with our previous committee and kind of pull these new members in so that they would be a little bit more up to speed. The main focus, of course, though, is the student assignment plan. So those 2 meetings were pretty heavy with data and information. In addition to our committee work, all Board of Education members were also offered small group presentations. Whether they took advantage of those or not, I'm not sure who all attended, but they were all offered small group presentations to become more familiar with the information with the student assignment plan. As Dr. Logan alluded to in her opening comments, the district has also provided 4 community presentations. These were offered starting February 8th to February 16th. They were virtual. They're actually, I just found out they were actually recorded as well. So if folks want to watch, listen to those and watch those again, they were recorded. Those were to propose the new high school plan and the Career and Pathways Academy information. They were held at various times and of course on different days and also in Spanish. So those were the community presentations. As we've already stated a couple times, we will have an opportunity as a board on this coming Monday, February 22nd, in this room again at 6 p.m., where we will delve into the student assignment plan at our board workshop. And we will also touch briefly on the college and career academy and pathways offerings again. So you'll kind of, those 2 obviously are very similar and very related. So we will touch on both of those at our workshop at 6 p.m. And then the final stage or goals for our committee is to, following the workshop, we will hopefully bring this item to an information item on the March 1st meeting, and then the plan is to have it as an action item to vote on the March 15th meeting. So that concludes my report. I'm sure there are a lot of questions. Hopefully, you won't have a ton tonight because we will get a lot of things answered on Monday at the board workshop. So anything initially, though, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cassidy. Moving on to J2C, Policy Committee update, Mr. Snow.
Thank you, President Dr. Hellman. First of all, the Policy Committee has changed a little bit, and I just want to acknowledge the members on the committee. Vice President Dr. Ernberger, Ms. Snipes, Mr. Thielen are on the Policy Committee. And recently we discussed some few policies. We have 2 policies right now that will come in front of the board for, will be on your tables, hard copy, the first meeting in March, and that's Policy 3090 and Section 10 of Policy 7000. One of the 3090 deals with the sale and disposal of books for the superintendent, giving the superintendent the authorization to be able to dispose of those books without having to come back in front of the board for little things like that. And Policy 7000, Section 10, focuses on some additional changes in aligning with state statute that was passed, I believe, January of last year. But when you get your revisions, you'll have a red line item on your table, and I hope you review it. Thank you. And I strongly encourage you, if there's any questions or anything, you can reach out to me, or if there's any policies you want the committee to look into, you can just send them to me or anybody on the committee, and we can have that discussion. I thank you for your undivided attention.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. We have 2 received reports. Information update on internal control deficiencies identified in the 2019-2020 audit, and K2 CBOC update for the Phase 1 and Phase 2 bond programs, January 2021. Moving on to closed session, Vice President Erdenberger.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, legal advice, and real estate.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Erdenberger and a second by Mr. Thielen to go into closed session. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Snipes.
Aye.
Snow. Thielen. Cassidy.
Aye.
Erdenberger.
Aye.
Head. Aye. Holman.
Aye.
Cracky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
9
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals, to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, legal advice, and real estate. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 9:18 p.m. Let the record reflect that the board came out of closed session at 9:51 PM and the meeting is adjourned.